video.
Okay.
Hi, Bill. Thanks again for a very nice Memorial Day speech. People say it's one of the best. And there's some
Thank you
heavy
very much, Gordon.
There's some heavy competition. There's some pretty strong competition there for Memorial Day speeches. So
I've heard a lot of them.
yeah.
And I was honored to be asked. Thank you.
Yeah, well, you certainly did a good job under difficult conditions. But anyway, I think people appreciated us persevering with the event. So anyway, thanks again for doing that. So the first thing that's on our agenda is approval of minutes of May 19th, 2020. Board of Selectmen's regular meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay. Then is there a second? I'll second it. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. Oh, Priscilla, I think you're on mute there. You might want to unmute. You might want to unmute that. Is that? There we go. All right. So next, we have addition to the agenda. Item 1 is Pomples Swamp Road Nash Pond project. Are there any other additions to the agenda? Is there a second to add?
Yeah, I second to add that to the agenda. I had a question that was brought to me by somebody. I didn't know if we used to have public comment at the beginning and at the end of the meetings, and now we only have it at the end. And I didn't know if that was something that we decided or was decided based on the current situation or whatever, but they raised a good point saying that, you know, maybe somebody didn't have time if they missed the meeting to raise some questions about what we had discussed in the previous meeting before we voted on it. And so I was just wondering if there was any background on that. I didn't know if that should be an addition or it was just a question that I had.
Sure. I mean, I don't think there wasn't any big policy thing. I think we tried to streamline things as much as possible. But if you want to add another public comment at the beginning of the meeting, we can do that. You want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what we were doing before, right? So.
Okay. All right. So we
well
can
keep it like that if people are used to it, you know.
Roger. Okay. So then we will then add the public comment, another session at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah, just to give people ample opportunity, I guess.
Right. Okay. So then, so is there a second to add that?
I second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh. Okay, got it. Next, communications. Any communications? Okay, hearing none, we'll go right into first item is COVID-19 coronavirus update. Marina is there. In.
I figured it out.
Good. So then COVID-19 update. Again, we're still in a state of emergency about that. Had a couple calls with the health district this week and conference calls with our local people and the state people. And everyone is watching and seeing the testing increase to try to track what's going on with the COVID virus. So far, according to the health district, they have increased the amount of testing and they've come back with an increasing amount of low positives, which means unlike the height of the crisis when there was a higher percentage of positives, now as they're testing more of the population, there is less positives of the actual virus, of the percentage of tests. So again, that's encouraging. They are looking to test people in nursing homes and first responders in June to try to find out what's going on with it. But again, that will be the virus test, the antigen test. It will not be the antibody test, because there are people in town that have tested positive for the corona antibodies, but are negative on the antigen test, which means they've had it. They have the virus and no longer viable in them. So again, there's two different tests, testing for two different things. So what they're still doing is trying to map it out, see where it is right now from the virus test. I did get we are still, even with doing things, we're still encouraging people to obey the law with having masks and social distancing. There is still concern with this state health officials about a possible second wave. And again, the only way to really reduce the risk of that is by following the measures that people have been talking about. I did have interesting story as far as masks goes. We've been participating with other people in other towns and making masks and distributing masks, initially to first responders and Sharon Hospital and people here. And since then, we've branched out to other places, other areas. And I did get a visit this weekend from Congresswoman Johanna Hayes, who thanked us for delivering masks to Waterbury, and her office was able to deliver those masks in turn to a nursing home in a rural area that didn't have any masks available. So again, our efforts have been fairly widespread. In fact, she used one of the masks that were made locally when she presided over Congress in Washington, D.C. last week. So the mask of Connecticut masks are famous. So again, she was very thankful for the efforts of everybody that's been working on trying to supplement the personal protective gear that's available for people, and hearing that nursing homes still, with all they've been through, are still under equipped, lets us know there's still work to be done. So that's sort of the overview, and we're going to continue to meet with our group that looks at local issues. Again, the food chain is still very active every week, supplying food to about 45 families. And because of the numbers involved, we can't really reopen the food pantry. So it's very important to keep our delivery service going, and people are very, very generous with their time and money to make that happen. So again, the support system's there. And we have been also supporting our mental health people, as this has been a stressful period for people. It's important for people to have the resources they need to get through it. So the town does support a lot of these organizations, and then they in turn support our residents. So again, if people are feeling stressed, they can talk to our social service department, and we can get them in touch with resources. One of the things we've done in between meetings is to work on recreational opportunities for Cornwall residents for the upcoming summer. We're almost there. The weather is improving. And I have talked to the Torrent Area Health District about what their recommendations are in terms of tennis and town beaches. So I did talk to Todd Piker today, and he has been in touch with Jen Markow, our Park and Rec person, and John Sanders, our chair of Park and Rec, and they are working on opening up the tennis courts here that the town maintains in Cornwall Village. The thought is that we will have posting on new procedures to try to keep people safe while they use it. And it will be by use by reservation. So there will be some online service that Todd's going to set up so people can reserve court use. And again, a big effort will be to post new procedures of how you play tennis safely in the in 2020. So I think what we'll need to do then, I think we should make a vote to reopen the town tennis courts that we maintain and are owned by the Hubbard family. They are also, the family is also in favor of the town reopening them safely. So I would make a motion that we do that under the supervision of Park and Rec and Todd Piker's tennis program. So is there a second to move that
Second.
forward?
I second.
Good. Any discussion? So normally what that would mean is we would we'd resurface the courts, and we would also do some new signage and public relations promoting the rules of safe play. So that is all possible, and we should be able to get that going in the next couple of weeks. So any other questions on all that?
I think that's great.
Yeah. So anyway, and a lot of people put some time in on that, try to do it safely. So that's the big thing. And if it gets to be a problem, we'll have people monitoring it. So I trust the tennis crowd isn't too rowdy, so they'll behave themselves, and we'll be able to have a good program this summer. So any other discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
So next, Marina and I have met about the beach. We have scoped it out, and I have talked to the health district about our proposal. And Marina, do you want to present this, and I'll chime in? Or I mean, we basically we're going to do things differently than we have in the past, but our goal is to get people in the water on a limited basis this summer. So
Sure.
we have making some changes, but why don't you give us your vision on how this might work as beach director?
Okay, can you guys hear me? Because I'm working on my computer and my phone, so can you
Clear.
hear me?
Yes.
Clear.
Okay, great. So Gordon and I met at the beach and discussed a model based off of what some public parks are doing in New York and in other places as well. Basically to create circles or grids where an individual or a group visiting the beach together can stay while visiting the beach, which would be 15 feet away from the next group or individual. It's a way to help ensure social distancing. So what I am tasked with now is going down and measuring the beach, and I'm going to throw it into a design program which will show me sort of the optimal way to create those spaces for groups or individuals. And in the case that you cannot maintain social distancing, masks will be required both for guests and for staff. We will create a walkway to the water to enable people to get there safely while maintaining social distance. Our lifeguards will be supplied with, the PPE they need, that they'll be cleaning surfaces, the bathrooms. We will discourage using bathrooms and changing rooms as much as we can. And in the event that things get really busy, we will put time limits on people. I did talk to Annie over at CHLA, and they actually had a great idea that I wanted to bring up tonight, which was that everyone that comes must sign in with their name and the time that they arrived, which would help a lot both for contact tracing, but also just for our lifeguards to be able to see who's been there longest, if it gets busy, who might be asked to leave to make space for the next person. My idea is to get a lot of signage printed with our rules. And I think, we want to keep this open all summer, but it's really contingent on people following the rules that will be established and will be very clearly posted and sent out in our Selectman's email, perhaps posted on the website, the cornwall.org website. I think it's doable, but I think it all depends on how people use it and how people adhere to the new rules that are going to look very different than the old rules.
Right. Yeah, our plan is to sort of encourage people to go for short stays and not spend the whole day there. The whole concept that the state's come up with is capacity limits and how many people can you fit there under your safe setup. The health district did like the idea of our grid idea, and again, try to tell people up front that we are looking this as a fairly short stay thing, especially on busier times. If nobody else is there, then obviously that doesn't matter. But if there are people there, we have to have somebody that will be, as I said, the head lifeguard, maybe the maitre d' more than a lifeguard. So just managing how it all works, making sure people are there. The health district liked the idea of having a walkway so people would come in with their masks. Also, that people should come in as a family, and it shouldn't be a mixed group of 5 people. It should be a family, or a unit, whatever we want to call it nowadays. Again, we would do a lot more to monitor usage and things to try to get as many people there using it in the course of the time that we have. We're not. Question came about swim lessons. No swim lessons this year. No swim lessons.
No, we just don't. I tried in my head to figure out how to do it, and we don't have a big enough facility. I think it's sad and it's an adjustment, but I'm hopeful that next summer we'll be able to resume our normal programming. It's just it's to have multiple children in a lane swimming, just to me at this point doesn't seem prudent. And another thing I wanted to bring up about children using the beach is I think it should be recognized. Like, I think a lot of our patrons happily come with their children and their kids build sandcastles and run from the sand to the water, and that's the kind of thing that won't be happening this summer. You're really restricted to your spot, and the grid system on land will also apply to the kiddie area. So there will be some sort of a grid set up with lane lines, and each individual or unit will be able to use a quadrant, for example. So it will be limited use, but you can come and cool off and have a little bit of a break.
And the other, so 2 other things. I did talk to Health District, and they liked our ideas there of telling people up front that this is a fairly short duration idea. And also some things like having our lifeguards go out on the surfboards instead of being on the beach all the time. So again,
Yeah.
we're trying, and I'm also talking, I've got a call into our risk management group, the insurance company, to see, they're working through the procedures on things, but we know that if lifeguards, again, that area would be distanced from other people, and there'd probably be the check-in person would probably have to have a mask, or something like that. So that all, that has to be all worked out. How does that happen? So they're going to get back to us with more of those nuts and bolts, but I think at this point we've got enough of an okay that we're fitting the state guidelines and the health department guidelines, that we're good to go on a trial basis.
That'd be great. I'm currently in the process of getting it all opened, like I would normally do with, plumbing and all that. And I am rewriting the guidelines and the lifeguard job description. So I should have that ready, before we open, to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah, I'll try to get you a couple of these changes that we came up with, chatting it up. It's I think you got most of them there, but I think we're good to go.
Okay.
And again, look forward to getting it all spruced up and ready to go for people. So any other thoughts on all that? So I would make a motion that we plan to reopen Hammond Beach for use this summer. I think are we shooting for June 20th? Do we have a date? Something like that?
Yes, June 20th is the goal. Barring anything unforeseen, I think that should be achievable.
Right. Okay, so we'll aim to open it on the 20th of June, continuing consultation with risk management people, the state, and and again, the health district already does monitor the beach for things anyway, so they will be checking places out. Okay, so any more discussion on all that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And one other thing too, we should put in the beach stuff, is they are encouraging, if people are sick or if they are of a vulnerable age or medical condition, that they should stay away.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things that we don't want. We don't want this to be a source of contagion. So whatever, that's pretty straightforward. That they put that in there for participation at public places. Speaking of public places, I did have a informal conversation with some town employees about whether we are going to reopen the town office at this point. The meeting limit is still at 5 until at least the 20-something of June, and we do have some members, employees that do have some health conditions. So it's my thought at the present time everybody has adjusted to our remote doings there, and we're still processing all the necessary paperwork and inquiries and things that are more and more being done electronically. So the one thing that did come up, John, was that we're again going to have to, we'll probably be pretty busy in the next couple of weeks with beach permits, but I don't see any problem with issuing those out any more than we still issue out burn permits and gun permits and dog licenses and all the other little things we permit. So do you see any problem with that? We could set up some sort of Dropbox or something for that.
I don't see a problem with it. I've already received a couple requests for beach passes with return envelopes. So
Right. So I think the main thing is we'll tell people to contact us. The best thing is to send us, the $20 for a family pass or $10 for an individual pass. And we will then, send us an envelope and then we'll send it back to you. It's not 21st century, but it seems, do you think that's the easiest way to do it?
Yeah, we could have a couple of options. That's probably the best way.
Yeah, because we can't handle money electronically other than tax collections at this point.
Yeah.
I don't.
Maybe we could do maybe people could set up an appointment. So I would know, I don't know. We'll have to, depends.
Yeah.
Another
Okay, well,
really helpful thing is to maintain a list on Excel once you do the permits, because sometimes people forget them, or it's helpful for the lifeguards to have a physical list. Sorry, I'm just saying what's been done in the past, because then they can check by last name as well.
right. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward, I think. Okay. So anything else on all that? So then, so we are finished with COVID for the night anyway. Next thing is Houstonic Railroad spraying. We had quite a big event happen this week in that the state of Connecticut sent us, got a little back and forth, but they sent us a proposed no spray zone for Cornwall Bridge, about 0.2 of a mile, and quite a bit more than that in the West Cornwall area. And I did have conversations with the residents of West Cornwall who are very glad to hear the state has done this. This is sort of like the first big move the state has made on the spraying issue since we've been working on it for years. The only thing is, if we've got maps of 4 different no spray zones, there is a gap in the no spray zone in West Cornwall from Route 128 going north to the intersection of Taradiddle Lane. So I'm going to ask them to fill in that gap in the no spray zone there, because again, we've had people in West Cornwall said they would do some brush cutting, keep things back from that area. And again, it's right in the middle of the residential zone. And there's also that zone could be continued slightly to the south to pick up a couple more houses that have wells and things near the track. So that doesn't seem to be a big issue. Plus, I'll ask them to include the area around the Libby Mitchell's property, which has seen a lot of damage from the extra spray. But again, this is the big news that the state is willing to order the railroad to have a no spray zone in West Cornwall and Cornwall Bridge. So anyway, that's good news, and thank everyone. And we had great help from our state representative and state senator helping us work with the DOT, who was, receptive and listened to our petition. So I think that's good news. So again, we'll keep on with that and see if we can expand those zones a little bit. But I'm going to thank them and send them off a letter tomorrow about that. So any thoughts on spraying West Cornwall? They're also surveying some property along where they're dead trees to try to take those trees down. Any thoughts on all that?
Great news.
Yeah. Okay. So hazardous material equipment from the fire department. They have had a couple of crashes, trucks going into streams and things where they've depleted some of their hazardous material, booms and things that they can do to trap the fluids that come out of trucks when they go upside down into a water course. So they would like to replace that. And again, at budget time, we said, if we don't have it, we need it. So the department has come up with about a $4,000 program that would get us the equipment we need as far as booms and pads and things to help dealing with hazardous material incidents. So I would make a motion that we've had a good year. We have money left on contingency. We're almost at the end of the fiscal year, and it seems like that's a good use of taxpayers' dollars to try to contain things. So I'd make a motion that we would allocate $4,000 if the department spends their entire budget this year. Then we can come up with that out of contingency to get that equipment in place. So is there a second to that idea?
Second that.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is asphalt bids. Jim, you should have gotten, did you get a town of Cornwall projected paving for 2020, something like this?
Yep.
Yep, Jim Bannigan came up with this. It's a projected paving of about 1,100 tons of asphalt to be applied to the top of Cream Hill. He was thinking of maybe joining us tonight or go fishing. So if he's there, he doesn't need to be there, but
He called in before the meeting, and he was up to something else, I think.
okay. So anyway, it's a pretty straightforward thing. Again, this is sort of the top and the north side of Cream Hill Road heading towards the Falls Village line. Some of these areas will be actually replaned, which means they'll be ground up and paved over so to get the cracks out. And again, it's a pretty heavily traveled road. And we've sealed the southern part of it from the elementary school up to the top. So I'd make a motion that we go out to bid. We have about a half dozen vendors of asphalt in place that we've used over the years, and it's usually a fairly competitive bid cycles. So I would make a motion that we go out to bid for approximately 1,153 tons of asphalt to be put in place this summer up on Cream Hill. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Okay. So, and again, this money is approved in the budget. Maybe with the price of oil down, we might get a bargain. You never know. It depends on who's hungry for the work. And there are various qualified companies to do this work in the area. So anyway, it would be good to keep our roads up. So any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a housing plan grant. This is something that's promoted from the Council of Governments. And there's about a half dozen towns that are going through this process where the state has a rural housing consultant that would look at your town and make some suggestions as far as ways the town can increase its variety of housing stock, which is one of our long-term goals in town. I think it's about $11,000, but we get paid for actually by a state grant. And all we have to do is get a resolution which the board needs to pass. Do you have a copy of that there at headquarters, John? Is there an actual resolution that has to be made authorizing me to enter into the grant?
I think Jonathan sent it out to us this afternoon.
Right. Okay. So, John, you're muted there.
Yeah, I'm going to try and share that resolution right now on screen.
Right. Or Priscilla, do you have that resolution? Do you want to make that resolution?
Yes,
So let's make a motion.
I make a motion that we sign that resolution, or you sign that resolution.
Right. Yeah. So let's make a motion to sign the resolution. Then we can discuss what this would actually do for us.
I so move.
I second.
Okay. So again,
Yep, there it is.
there it is. Good work. So this is Priscilla's handwriting, I can tell. So she's making this resolution. The Board of Selectmen may apply and accept the planning grant for affordable housing plan. And I'm authorized to execute and deliver any or all documents on behalf of the town, form the acts. So anyway, so there it is, black and white. I think it's good, with all the various crises that have been we've been dealing with this spring. We did want to do a housing forum this April, but of course that didn't happen. And I think, again, having several area towns, this is a fairly common problem, not just in our region, but throughout the state of Connecticut. And if we can get some useful ideas moving forward, because there's very little housing of any kind being built in town before this crisis, whatever. And now that we're, in worse economic condition, there's probably less housing going to be built. So again, if we can have some assistance there, I think that would be a good thing, get some ideas. And again, I don't think this obligates us to do anything, but there may be some things that we can do easily. I know the planning and zoning is redoing some of their housing regs as part of the redraft of the planning and zoning regulations, which will be coming up pretty quick. But it doesn't hurt to have somebody come out that's doing and look at these towns and see what we could do more of. So, any thoughts on that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. So then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next thing is the facade program. We did receive $120,000 grant several years ago to upgrade barns and business storefronts. We have handed out about $60-something thousand. We have a few administrative fees, so we have about $50,000 for additional grants left in that program. So again, if there are businesses out there that are looking to improve things, or nonprofits, they can apply for this to either paint or do handicap accessibility issues, energy upgrades. They have to touch the building, but they can also do landscaping if they do some of the building. And again, there's a couple other applications that are out there right now to do some paint some barns and remodels commercial building in Cornwall Bridge, but there is still funds available, and in theory this needs to be done this year. So if there are businesses out there that have commercial buildings that need some work, it's an 80% grant of the first $10,000. So it's a pretty good deal. There's not a lot of red tape with all this. And we would like to continue to push this program forward. So any more on that? West Cornwall Firehouse property, the board has received some requests from the Farnsworth brothers, who own the bookstore, which is next to the old firehouse lot in West Cornwall, which a lot of people don't even know the town had a firehouse in West Cornwall between the bridge over Mill Brook, which we just redid, and the Farnsworth bookstore. The lot is about 20 by 30, and it is very close to the brook. It doesn't have huge use at this point to the town, other than there's a bench there that people sit on a couple times a year. The Farnsworths are looking to do some testing on that so that they could put a well there if the town ever in the future does a septic. The problem with selling the old bookstore is it doesn't have a viable well or septic, and it's basically has the land that it sits on. So again, we would like to see that building reused, and they would like to potentially purchase it, but before they purchase it, they want to do some engineering tests to make sure they're not buried tanks or buried treasure on the lot. And then we would take that to a town meeting. I told them we were on hold for town meetings, but at least getting the testing done would allow them to move their plans forward. Unfortunately, I talked to them on Thursday. Unfortunately, on Saturday night, their mother's house burnt pretty heavily in West Cornwall. A separate issue. Again, I think there was over 10 neighboring fire departments came to our aid. There was smoke throughout the village, and it was a very difficult fire to fight, as it started well before the fire departments got there, so it got a good jump and superheated the building. But with a certain amount of skill and cooperation and help from our friends, the department was able to contain the damage to inside the building. It did not spread to adjacent properties. And luckily, again, nobody was hurt. At one time, there was probably 60 firemen there and a dozen fire trucks fighting the fire, which is probably double the population of West Cornwall briefly. And, again, we were lucky that several years ago the town put in a hydrant in the river by Ian's Ingersoll shop, so we were able to tap into that and hook into one of our new fire trucks and then into another fire truck. So we needed all our apparatus, which we don't have many calls that are this large very often, fortunately. And again, it was very good that no one was hurt, and it was a shame that the building was damaged as much as it was. But the Farnsworths did call up and said they are still interested in pursuing this program to test the firehouse lot, with the idea that the town might sell that to them to help revitalize the bookstore property. So again, that would be up to a town meeting, up to planning and zoning, to see whether they felt there's a better use for the property, but it doesn't hurt to ask. And again, West Cornwall could use a little economic vitality at the current time. So anyway, it's my thought that we would allow them to do this testing. And I got a thing, which I think I sent you, from their engineer, Bill Colby, who pledges to restore the land to its current condition and reseed whatever holes. He's going to dig test hole 1 he mulched it and reseeded. Not a major production. But because it's town property, we do need to vote on it. So I would make a motion that we grant Farnsworth's request to do some environmental testing on the West Cornwall Firehouse lot. I did consult with a longtime member of the fire department who remembers that firehouse in its glory days in action and said there was no underground tanks there, that the oil furnace that they put in after there was very little heat in the building for years was the tanks were above ground and were taken out at the time that the building was demolished when we built the new firehouse across from the school. So I don't think there's much risk of them finding stuff, but being in West Cornwall, there's probably something stuff. Who knows what? So, but I doubt if it's treasure, we get to keep it. It belongs to the town. It's invaluable. So is there a second to all that? Motion to allow testing of the old firehouse property.
Yes, I second it. I think it's a great idea.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So then we have a tax refund request for $67.19. John, how much is it?
It's $67.13.
Oh, wow. So then I make a motion, we grant this. Somebody overpaid the real estate tax, so then they sharpen their pencil, we give them the money back. So I'll make a motion that we grant that tax fund request. Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then we have, addition to the agenda, we have the Popple Swamp Road, Nash Pond. I see Karen Nelson is there, coming in live from her office. This is, there's been a major construction job to reestablish a pond at the former Nash property on Popple Swamp Road as part of their plan. There is a low spot of Popple Swamp Road for reasons that are lost to history. There is a dip in the road, which periodically floods, and the pipe underneath the dip is small. So the owner of the property have offered to raise the road and increase the pipe size. And while they're at it, put in a fire hydrant, which would be very useful because could be a very big pond. So the only downside is it may close. The road may have to be closed for up to a month while the construction happens. But I think overall, in terms of flooding, in terms of fire protection, seems like a pretty good deal for the town, the residents of the town, of that area especially. And it's not a dead end, but there will be people, like the town clerk will have to go around to get places, so there will be some inconvenience. But I think it will enhance that whole area. It's my thought. So I would make a motion that we grant the upgrade, the contractor there, Lee Remick, the ability to upgrade the road. And again, we're going to meet with Roger Kane and Jim Bannicky, myself, Mr. Remick, and come up with a construction sequence and a design that meets the requirements in the Wetlands Commission and would allow us to upgrade the road. So I'd make a motion to do that. Is there a second to that?
Second?
Okay. So any words of wisdom from our land use administrator? Karen, that's you.
Am I muted?
You're live. You got a
Oh,
live.
okay.
You got a hot mic there, so you got to watch.
It was
what you say.
discussed at tonight's inland wetlands meeting, the original permitting for the pond. That was something that we asked for and we did receive from the property owner. So I'm glad that we can move forward on it. I'm sorry if there is going to be some, congestion because of the road being closed, but that road, that dip in the road has been a safety issue for people since I've been here for 13 years, and it's time to fix it before somebody ends up in the pond or hurt. So moving forward is a good thing, and the Wetlands Commission is all behind it.
And did they have any? They submit any plans with that?
Yeah, it's part of the original package of plans that we approved. Yes.
So they're lifting the road up about a foot, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Match pipe. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so there you go. So big doings on Papa Swamp. So, any more discussion about all that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So next is public comment. So the public is here. The public needs to be unmuted. Any comments from the public? Everyone's stunned. How about the press? The press,
Well, yes, I've just unmuted myself. Am I unmuted?
you're there. We
Okay,
hear
in
you.
which case I don't have any questions. I'm fine.
Okay, crystal clear. Ruth, how are you? How's Ken?
Kent is good. I'm good. Thank you.
Good. Do you have any questions, Ruth? Anybody else have any questions?
No, I'm good.
Okay, going
We're
once.
very succinct and clear tonight, Gordon.
Really? Okay. Let's get all that fresh produce. Great. So for dinner. Thank you. Anyway, so anything else? I think we're pretty good on that. We signed bills, and then we're gonna have an executive session, talk about employee stipends for pandemic duty. So at this point, we'll leave the public session. I'll make a motion. We go into executive session, talk about that. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Right,
So see you all later. Thanks for attending, and we'll be in touch. Okay. All right.
Hold on. Okay, it's just us now. I'm gonna lock it so no one can enter.
Okay, got it. So,
Go ahead.
just this may be a can of worms, but there's no doubt that there's been a lot of people in town that have helped us through this